September in the hills. Back in the ageless hills, where cicadas chirp by day and katydids fiddle by night, summer sighs in the trees, and one yellow leaf comes tumbling to the ground. Along the edge of the pasture, the crimson fronds of sumac shout a prophecy as old as time. Fox grapes, blue-black and heady, fall from the vine. Burnished spires of goldenrod stand sentinel in the sun. Green acorns hang on the oaks, tiny green cones on the hemlocks. Touch-me-nots, looking for all the world like miniature orange pitchers, troop along the edge of the stream. And the voice of the stream, so full of laughter a month ago, is only a whisper. August ebbs away and September comes. Autumn is at hand and summer is reluctant to leave. To the hillborn, September is many things. It is huckleberry pie and hearts a-bustin' with love. It's the cidery smell of early apples on the ground and the first tang of wood smoke curling from a chimney. It's amber liquid flowing from cider presses and molasses bubbling in the long pans. It's new-run furrows for the seeding of turnips and winter greens. It's leather breeches and dried fruit hanging in strings from porch ceilings. It's kraut in the crock and pickled beans in the jar. It's gourds on the vine and a flowering pumpkin vine. It's pawpaws and maypops yellowing in the sun and the bronze of hillside grass gone to seed. It's pretty by nights and scarlet sage, ladyfingers and dahlias and cosmos proclaiming their ancient glory. It's hound dogs lazing in the shade and chickens scratching in the yard. It's whippoorwills singing a requiem to summer. It's crows cawing and owls hooting. It's groundhogs and bears laying on the fat for hibernation. It's the haunting purple of wild asters and joe pie weed. It's walnuts ripening and squirrels busy among the hickories. It's fog over the river valleys at dawn and the creep of early scarlet among the maples in the swamp. It's gentle winds whispering of frost to come. It's the time of golden sunlight sifting and quivering through tree and flower and shrub. It's fledglings on the wing and half-grown rabbits in the garden. September in the hills is a kiss and a sigh, a poem and a ballad. It's a family reunion and a homecoming, a box supper and a cakewalk. It's bean stringings and pepper stringings. It's beets for pickling and apples for pies. It's a time when days grow shorter, nights longer. It is warm days and cool nights. It's corncob jelly and elderberry jam. Its thistleheads turn into fat tufts of floss. It's gingerbread and apple upside-down cake. It's a rick of hickory hearth logs, sun-drying for winter use. It's a fox barking in the night and a possum up a tree. It's laying-by time, canning time, pickling time. It's ears of corn hardening on the stalk and sliced apples drying in the sun. It's the woods beginning to hang out their battle flags among the maple and poplar and red oak and black oak. It's chinky pins ripening in the burr and wild cranberries reddening in the bog. But most of all, September is a goodbye to summer, not yet gone, and a look to autumn, not yet come. That wonderful piece, September in the Hills, is written by John Parris. You can find it maybe in several of his books, because some of his books kind of overlap, but the one I'm reading from today is These Storied Mountains. So John Parris was a wonderful writer in western North Carolina who wrote for the Asheville Citizen for many, many years, and a lot of his articles were actually put into book form. They are hard to find because most of them are out of print, but if you can find them, they are a true treasure. Now, he wrote this piece many years ago, so for me, it's kind of like some of those things are done and gone by the wayside, and they're not as common today in Appalachia, in the southern mountains of Appalachia where I live, like they were when John Parris was writing about them. But a lot of them are still today. I mean, still I can say he sums up September perfectly, down to the different things, the different, things in the garden that he talks about, the things blooming, the wild asters and the you know, even down to the maypops and the pawpaws, all those kind of things. Definitely, those things are still going on. There's not as many people who make sorghum syrup today, but there is still a few, so when he mentions that, I don't know anybody that has cranberries in the bog. I've never known of anybody doing that in my area of Appalachia. He wrote about Western North Carolina, but he was more from Sylva on towards, because he wrote for the Asheville Citizen, so more that area than far west like I am. That's considered Western North Carolina too, though, of course. Anyway, so really interesting to ponder on the things that he wrote about. And for me, comforting to know that a lot of those ring true to me today. It's exactly how I feel about September. This time of the year is not my favorite time of the year because of the, kind of like he says, that battle going on. Summer's not really gone yet, and fall's not really here, but it's kind of the in-between. Now, there are the beautiful flowers that he mentioned, like the asters, goldenrod, the jewelweed. He calls them touch-me-nots. It's the same thing. I have some growing right here, blooming right behind me. All those beautiful things are blooming, but much of the fauna around my house is kind of turned brown around the edges. The trees take on kind of a dirty look. Certainly the grasses do, and the weeds and all that begins. They're getting ready to die back. They're getting ready for that frost that's yet to come. Of course, once that little time period is over, then the trees put on their beautiful garments. You know, people come from all over the world to see the beauty of the changing of the trees in the mountains of Appalachia. It's such a beautiful sight. So fall, it's just that in-between that I don't like, though, in-between before they put on those beautiful fall garments. September for me is always a month that I think about, along with the things that John Parris mentioned, other things that come to mind for me. One of my best childhood friends' birthdays was in September, so I think about her, I think about Tracy. I have my own birthdays in September. Corey and Katie, their birthday's coming up. They were born on September the 25th. My niece April was born on September 30th. My sister-in-law Kim, her birthday was this week, so lots of family birthdays, so for sure I think about them. I go back to those days when I had Corey and Katie. Their due date was actually sometime in October, but I had them in September, and you know, it reminds me of being a new mother with little kids and little babies, and then as they got older, of course, thinking of the times we would celebrate their birthdays with parties or doing something special with the family. So lots of good memories of September for me, for sure. It does seem like a calmer time, I guess because the garden is dying back and there's not as much that frantic putting up stuff when your tomatoes and your corn or your squash or whatever it is that you're growing comes in just by the buckets full and you've got to do something with them. So that kind of slows down for me. I've been putting up apples. I've still been putting up okra. Our green beans are kind of played out, except the new ones that we planted, and we've mostly been eating those. But so that kind of slows down. Of course, if you have children, they go back to school typically this time of the year, so that kind of slows down. And I guess as that dying part that I don't like, you can almost look at it like that the earth is kind of slowing down too. It's not putting out all that new growth. If you've ever been to Appalachia in the summer, southern Appalachia, it's just amazing for the growth that occurs in one summer, and then dies back, and then comes back the next summer. It's an amazing miracle every year to see all that green come forth, and then this time of the year for it to take a rest and kind of die back till next year. So really lovely things to think about during this month of September. I hope that you'll leave a comment and share your thoughts about September. Share the things about John Parris that maybe the things I read that jumped out at you, or your own special September memories that you think about. And as always, I hope you'll drop back by often to help me celebrate Appalachia.